Thank you, folks, for sharing your talents. And good morning, everybody. In the never-ending search for a mirth moment, I have had one of our congregants send me some comments that have been heard on flights, on airplane flights, that is. On a continental flight with a very senior flight crew, the pilot said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we're reaching cruising altitude and we'll be turning down the cabin lights. This is for your comfort and to enhance the appearance of your flight attendant." Cruel, cruel. On landing, the flight attendant said, "Please be sure to take all your belongings. If you're going to leave anything, please make sure it's something we'd like to have. There may be 50 ways to leave your lover, but there are only 4 ways out of this cabin." Thank you for flying Delta Business Express. We hope you enjoyed giving us the business as much as we enjoyed taking you for a ride. And this is a sort of a fringe one here. After a particularly rough landing during thunderstorms in Memphis, a flight attendant on a Northwest flight announced, "Please take care, because during this flight and the landing, which was rough, some things may have shifted." And there's a voice from the back and says, "Ma'am, ain't that true?" I leave that to your imagination. Keep them coming. On the way out of Rome, Italy, not Rome, Georgia. On the way out of Rome, there is a beautiful monastery in a little place called Subiaco. Some of you may have been there, I don't know. I think it's a Benedictine monastery, and the large chapel that they have there was built in the Renaissance style in the late 16th, early 17th century. But there is, on the hillside, a little medieval chapel, probably built the 12th or 13th century, very small and very dark. And if you go into this little chapel in Subiaco, and most people ignore it because it's barely visible, you will see cut into the wall a grill, like a prison grill. You know what I mean by a grill? Some iron bars. And there's a sort of grotto behind, which is lighted usually by candles. And sitting disconsolate on a stone is the devil. The devil. With the horns, naturally, those little horns that actually come from the mischievous god, Greek god Pan, but for some reason they got assembled onto the devil in the Middle Ages. With the horns, the tail, the cloven hooves, and he's sitting there. But of course he's locked in this cell and he can't get out. And he's been there for hundreds of years. Probably a wax model originally made by the monks there. But this is the conventional view of the devil. The devil. If you have children and you ever take them to Subiaco, don't take them to that little chapel, please. So what I wanted to do this morning was to share some ideas about the devil. Because it's very important, believe it or not, concerning what Unity believes. Now, I just want you to remember that when I talk with you on these Sunday mornings, I am not lecturing. I am not preaching. This is not a sermon. These are not principles that must be adhered to under pain of great displeasure. I'm just sharing some ideas. If you're not happy with those ideas, fine. Find your own. Or come, better still, to the forum and we'll talk about them in extenso. But I just want to share some ideas about this notion of the devil because it's pervaded Western consciousness over hundreds of years. It's still very much a presence in many conventional Christian teachings and churches. And we've always got this idea that somehow there's a devil lurking out there who's making mischief. When I was a little boy at school, a very little boy, and I wasn't churched. I didn't go to church. I was a kind of a heathen. I suppose because my parents were heathens, I don't know. They were nice heathens, but they didn't go to church. But I didn't either, consequently. But the school I went to was quite conventional, and we had pictures of various biblical subjects, including one of the devil. And I always remember as a very small child looking at this picture, and the devil was there waiting to grasp those who were likely to suffer the pangs of hell at his hands. The devil's always male, after all. And I didn't like it at all. I was concerned. I had the temerity once to ask one of our teachers who the devil was. It was not a good idea. When we look at the devil in Scripture, we see Jesus sometimes being tempted by something called the devil. There's a passage here in Luke, and I'm not going to read it to you, Luke 4, where Jesus is tempted by the devil. He's taken, if you remember, to the walls of Jerusalem and showed the kingdoms of the world and said, you can rule these if you wish. Well, that's a temptation which is fairly natural. It's designed to play into the hands of human vanity, is it not? Because all of us, to one degree or another, like to have power over our experiences, even like to control people. And a devil might very well play on that natural human propensity, may he not? Come on, I'll give you all the power you want, all the control. Why do you think in the Middle East today we have such pain, suffering, misery, and poverty, such despair? Because men, I speak generically, man, if you want, desires to control in that area and to have power over the lives of the others. Do you think if there was nobody living in the Middle East, it would be a hell on earth? So this gives us a clue about what the devil might be. The devil, as Jesus understood that term, didn't exist. There was Satan, and in the Aramaic language, Satan is Satana, the false accuser. That force that may have tempted Jesus on the walls of Jerusalem, that may have said, look, you can have it all. You can have it all. Not as an entity might tempt, but as thoughts in one's own head might operate. The devil, in other words, in ourselves. Demons, there certainly were. And the word demon is a difficult word. In Greek, the word daimon just means some kind of animating spirit, not necessarily bad at all. But Jesus was credited with driving out demons because in those days, when medicine was primitive, demons were thought to be at the heart of illness, and so they had to be driven from the body. We have exorcists in the Catholic Church today who are concerned to drive demons out of people who are possessed. It's an idea that's still with us. But a demon is not a devil. A devil represents the singular force of evil, which divides this world, this universe, between two halves, good and evil. But Jesus' devil wasn't that kind of a devil. He was Satana, the false accuser. That part of us that pushes us to do things that we know inherently and instinctively probably to be wrong, and yet we say, okay, I have the power to do this, to crush, to control, to manipulate. That's the devil. Why do we have to ascribe that natural human instinct, alas, it exists in us, with some kind of cosmic power that has divided the universe into two? There is one religion, Zoroastrianism, which grew out of ancient Persia, Iran today, which is divided into two. We have Ahura Mazda on one side. That's the power of light. And then we have Achaman on the other, which is the power of darkness. And the two are locked in eternal combat throughout all time. It's not known who might triumph. That's a real devil you can get your teeth into, for heaven's sake. Not one of these namby-pamby guys with a pitchfork, you know. So there are religions that see the universe divided into light and dark, good and bad, God and the devil, the destructive and the constructive. In unity, we don't do that. And this is where I think the interesting unity principle that I want to illustrate comes in. We in unity believe in a oneness. We said it. God the good, omnipotent. We said that this morning. God the good, omnipotent. No room for a devil there. When I was doing philosophy, and doing is the operative word, it may have been doing me rather than me doing it, but when I was doing philosophy, when I was teaching it or trying to, I was a monist. I believed in one universe, one power, everything under one heading, as it were. I was never a dualist. When you are a dualist, you believe in two sides of the universe. You believe in the good and the bad, the devil and God. When you are a monist in philosophy, you believe in the one universe. When you're a monist in theology or in religion, you believe in the one universe. And we are in that camp in unity. We believe that there is one God, one maker, and we don't believe God is an old man with a beard any more than we believe the devil might be an old man with a pitchfork. We're talking about principles. We're talking about guiding factors. We're talking about something so incomprehensible that perhaps we can't ever truly explain it. But we believe somehow that it is one, that it is unified, that we are a part of it, that we are in it, and it is fundamentally good. And what do we mean by good? We mean that it is constructive and creative, not destructive. That it does not destroy, but that it creates. And what it creates is harmonious. It is life itself. That's where we stand in unity. Mr. Fillmore, the founder of Unity, said, co-founder of Unity, he said very properly, the devil is those thoughts of limitation that you entertain in your own hearts. It has no independent reality or existence. In other words, the devil is in you. The devil is not in the detail, but the devil is in us. And I think many of us on the spiritual path, on the spiritual road, we tend, I think, to actually feel this. We sense that there's this power within us that allows us to, as it were, co-create with our Maker. And we regard with concern, at the very least, those forces that drag down and tear apart. We don't want to be on that side of any equation because there is a oneness about life that we understand, that we celebrate, that we comprehend with growing vigor and fervor as we move along the spiritual path, and we say, yes, I want to be identified with that one. And when that's true, then the fear that the devil would play upon, the false accuser, it begins to go away. We are not afraid any longer. How can we be afraid when we're always in the life and light of that which made us? There may be changes that we are even unprepared for, changes that we fear, and yet nothing can take from us that identity, that oneness that inherently we sense is our son and daughtership. That's what we really actually are. And so we move from that to a premise that the Fillmores also introduced. If the devil is supposedly the creator of hell and God the creator of heaven, if you remove that dichotomy, if you take it out of the equation, if you move everything into a oneness, a monism, a oneness, then heaven and hell have to be seen as slightly different phenomena, do they not? And we have taught in unity forever, as long as unity's been around, that heaven and hell are not separate places. They are not locations. They are not geographically to be found, spiritually to be found, psychologically to be discovered, emotionally to be trapped in. They are products of our own thinking processes. We make the heavens and the hells in which we dwell. That is a very tough message. Some people find it difficult to accept, even unacceptable. And yet in unity, we place the responsibility for where we find ourselves upon the capacities we have to think and to reason and to discover what our true identity is. And so, let's put the devil in his place. Let's leave him in Subiaco, where he's been for the last 600 years. And let's leave him to the movie makers. And let's leave him to some people who want to believe in the devil, because devil is a great excuse. I went to visit a guy in the county jail in Clearwater, Florida one time. Yeah, I think it was murder he was accused of. And we talked and counseled. I said, "Why did you want to see me?" He said, "Well, I had to see some pastor or priest." He said, "I thought you were the most likely to come." Probably because the church was round the corner. I said, "Yes." I said, do you want to discuss your motivation?" He said, "The devil made me do it." He was a firm believer in the devil, and he wasn't going to take any responsibility for his own action. The devil made him. Okay, well, I forget what he pleaded in court, but it probably got him off. I don't know. So the devil has been very, very useful. It has explained away a lot of human frailty, a lot of human destructiveness over the many centuries. There's a power of evil, and that made me do it. That made me do it. Maybe Hitler's pleading that at this moment. I don't know. But we say in Unity, it's what we think that matters. We ourselves have this capacity to create, to reach out, to declare our world constructive and creative and therefore good. We have this God-given ability because we're part of that which made us. We try to take away the sense of separation. We may have separation of powers in this country. I'm not sure they work so well anymore, but let's not talk about that. But in the human consciousness, there is a unity of power, a directness, a focus that we can discover as we move forward in our spiritual understanding. And we begin to see that we are part of a creative whole, not in any sense alienated or likely to be thrown out. It's our birthright. It's what we are. And as we grow in this, as we affirm that oneness, as we proclaim it, as we resist the temptations of the devil, the anger, the frustration, the bitterness that sometimes arise in the human soul, the control, the need for powers, as we resist these things, then we become more focused, more part of that one, if that were possible, of which undoubtedly I believe and Unity believes we were created to be. Any questions next week?